Hi, this is the front page of the app that PAW Ireland has recently developed and will be rolled out shortly. It allows the general public to report potential wildlife crime to the National Parks and Wildlife Service and the Gardaí as the statutory agencies responsible for law enforcement in terms of wildlife crime. Once you come onto the front page, you can go over here on the left hand side and it gives you a little bit of information and explains the details of how the app works. It explains that the app will actually submit an email that the recipient needs to process and send themselves. So the app basically produces a detailed email which helps the law enforcement officers do their job more effectively and more quickly. If you go on to Ring NPWS at the top of the page, and give it a second or two, the various regions will come up. So if you press any given area, it'll give you a phone number, and the general public can phone the relevant NPWS staff based in that area that might be best placed to respond to any particular incident. The incident report form is relatively simple and copies most of the categories are detailed points that NPWS are keen to gather at an early stage to assess whether it is, in fact, a wildlife crime. It can also be often misconstrued, and maybe certain actions or mortality is caused entirely naturally. So because the email that the participant will send themselves to NPWS or the Gardaí, they're asked to make sure that the report and the details are truthful, so we'll confirm that. And now we'll run through a hypothetical incident report, and that'll produce an email like we seen a wee while ago. So basically under your name, speed this up, I'm going to put it in myself, I'll put in a telephone number. People aren't obliged to put in a telephone number, though we do recommend it. Obviously it makes the ranger or the Gardaí's job a little bit easier. We put in a email address, which is a required field, and then we just say that we will be collecting non-GDPR data, i.e. data on the animals themselves, the location at a 10-kilometer grid reference, and the type of incident involved, and that over time will help us to see if there are any clusters of particular wildlife crime or wildlife incidents, shall we call them, in a given area. So we move on then to the next one. And just very briefly, you can spend a little bit of time with this yourself, and different incident types that we're looking at currently. So there's aspects of bird crime, environmental crime, crimes against seals, badgers, hares and bats, and also deer or fish, issues related to traps and snares and CITES. But for this example, we'll just imagine that we've had a bird incident. General public may not always know the types of species involved, so we keep it quite generic and maybe terminology that the general public can understand. So in this case, rather than any of these other types of birds, we put in a bird of prey. If the species is known, you're asked to identify it. In this case, we put in a golden eagle, and then under the incident type, and there's various incident types relevant to the different, whether it be a bat or a badger or deer or hare, and obviously all of those species will face different types of wildlife crime. So in this case, we put down poisoning. So we filled in 3 out of 3 fields there, and when you come to the location, there's a interactive map. I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this, but we'll go up to Donegal and go closer and closer, and we'll just pretend that there's an incident somewhere here near Fintown. And we accept that location. You can obviously play around it and be very exact with your location. You ask things like habitat. We'll deliberately leave that blank for the moment. You don't have to answer the weather or the additional comments. And then move on to the next incident, and it has a time and date. So very quickly we'll say, let's say Saturday the 24th, and that time will do us for the moment. It also asks if people are seen nearby. That sometimes might be relevant, or it might ask you for if you feel there was a a suspicious vehicle, or you've seen people maybe coming away from a badger set with spades and putting them into a particular car, you might keep details of the registration. As I said, none of this personal information will be kept by PAW. Now, as you see, we get to the end of the page. We're nearly ready to create the email, but I can't find the submit button there. It's still shaded because I failed to fill in that habitat question earlier on that we spoke about. So we go back up here. You can see there's one field missing. Quickly just push that in. Habitat. We put down heat and bracken, so that's 2 out of 2. And there you are, 3, 3, 2, and 1. All those questions are answered. And now we hit the submit button. We've said previously we were asking people to submit photographs alongside their record, which can help the ranger or the Gardaí identify what type of animal or what type of bird may be at play in the submission they receive. And that's just another tool where the general public can submit information to MPWS and Gardaí. And I think both organisations will say that they're heavily reliant on reports from the general public to help them. So open it up. As I said, currently the emails are going to PAW Ireland because we're just testing it. But as soon as it's ready to be launched, PAW Ireland's email address will be removed and the email will be sent automatically to MPWS. Thank you.